everybody. Welcome to the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. I'm Tony Gerdeman here, as always, with Tom Orr. Tom, how's it going?
Tony, we are building our site at BuckeyeInsiders.com. Sorry, I shouldn't say building our site. The site's built, site's active, site's going great. We've been adding members. We've been building our community is probably a better way to say that. And I was delighted on Saturday evening this week to see that we had added a new member whose username was PowerPauseKing. And I'm not going to lie, I went in there and just double checked the contact information to make sure this was not a Tony Gerdeman burner. It is not a Tony Gerdeman burner. So there you go. Welcome, PowerPauseKing, someone whose name I will be the first PowerPause I will ever appreciate in the history of this show.
Well, let me then either correct you or mention that there's also a PowerPauseKing that has joined. So
maybe it was PowerPause. It is PowerPauseKing. I apologize. I would like to. I regret the error. I will. Sorry, the screen cut off on the back end. So PowerPause KI something.
Yes, PowerPauseKing is obviously the son of or daughter of the PowerPauseKing. Welcome to both of them. Would love to see everybody there over at BuckeyeInsiders.com. As we say, the absolute best way to support us. And we thank those of you who have. Welcome those of you who haven't. Big season coming, obviously. And one of the reasons for a big season, Tom, if you're going to have a big season, you've got to have breakout stars. And so what we want to talk about today are some breakout offensive players. We did a defensive show a while back, have not yet done offense. And so we'll go 3 rounds, picking out some of the breakout, I guess, stars is maybe a little aggressive, given some of the names that we're going to talk about. But I'm going to go first because of these back and forth, these 6 players. I can only come up with 5, really, that I feel like are going to break out. So that's why I'm going to go first. And the first name I'm going to mention is Ian Moore at left tackle, because at this point, even all of the magazines have him at left tackle, and we saw him there in the spring. I do wonder what would have happened if Austin Seerveld was healthy all spring long. What would that have looked like? Would there have been, would we have seen Seerveld at right guard, which is kind of where, if we're going to expect Ian Moore at left tackle, then Austin Seerveld is going to be at right guard. I know there are some Philip Daniels holdouts out there that want to see him move on side. It doesn't look like it's going to happen because we didn't see it in the spring. But if you're going to move Ian Moore into that left tackle spot, he better be a breakout star.
Well, and if you watched me make a face as soon as you said that, I thought, well, Ian Moore, I can save him for like the 4th pick here because Tony's going to be real basic and go with the skill position guys. And so Ian Moore, definitely safe, looking very smart, picking him like 4th or so on this list. But yeah, no, I think Ian Moore is a great choice here because we don't know officially 100% where he's going to be, but it sure seems to me like the best version of they go for their best 5 every year, right? So it feels like the best 5 involves Ian Moore somewhere. And if Philip Daniels was going to play right guard, I feel like we would have seen that more in the spring. So, okay, you can sort of cross that probably off the list. And Ian Moore is not a guard. Ian Moore is a tackle. So Austin Seerveld is much more of a swing guy. So it feels like that's how this is likely to shake out. And if you have a left tackle who is a first-time starter, who has a really good season, and this would be his 3rd season in college, but has his first good season as a starter, yeah, that is a breakout player for sure. Not one that you can say, you can put real stats on, but I think he's someone who is, if he has a good year, that's going to go a long, long way towards determining how good this offense can be. I'm going to go back to, I'm going to keep things nice and basic. I know everyone wants me to say Legend Bey, so I'm just going to say Legend Bey, where this is a true freshman. No one's saying he's going to run for 2,000 yards. No one's saying he's going to have 25 touchdowns this year. But he's going to be a guy who, based on everything we've been told, going back to even before the spring, we kept getting told, watch this kid, watch this kid, watch this kid. He is going to be a player. They are going to find ways to get him touches. I continue to believe they are going to find a way to get him touches. And I think he's going to be a guy who is the top line stats won't necessarily be eye popping, but I think he's going to be one of those guys that has one of those highlight reels where, you go back to like Noel Devine at West
Mhm.
Virginia, where, you look at the top line stats when he was playing there, and it wasn't incredible. He wasn't running for 1,800 yards a season or whatever, but you just would put on the highlight reels and just go, "Whoa, this kid is doing things that other people can't do." And I think Legend Bay is a guy who, even on a team of real freak athletes like Ohio State has, I think Legend Bay can maybe bring some things that other people on that offense don't necessarily bring.
Yeah, I would agree. And some of the intel that we got way back when was, 5 to 8 touches per game. And it may not sound like a lot, but that's more than Brandon Innes got last year. Brandon Innes in 14 games had like 53 touches. So that's, you're talking like not quite 4 touches a game. Kyle Parker, 2.5 touches a game at LSU last year. So when we talk about Legend Bay and 5 to 8 touches, that's that's significant. Now it may be 5 rushes for 18 yards, and you're like, well,
Mhm.
that's not so great. But just the fact that he's that involved, if that happens, I think will be significant. And if he's a threat on kickoff returns, that's going to be significant. And if he's just a guy that the defense has to point out and be worried about, that helps everybody else. So yes, he was number 2 on my list, Tom, and I bet you can guess number 3 on my list, which is Chris Henry Jr. And my opinion has continued to grow since the start of spring. Not sky high like it was with Jeremiah Smith, but it's just steadily continued to climb with no plateau. It's just like, okay, all right, okay, everything you're seeing is looking good. And what we've said in the past, I forget the exact numbers that we put down for him. I probably had him in the 20s in terms of catches, something like that. And I think that's realistic because I said it and I meant it. But I think there are going to be some plays, and I think he's going to be a very good complementary piece. I don't know if that's right away. I don't know if that's against Texas, but down the line, I think there will be games where they're talking about Chris Henry Jr. And when I say they, that could be during the game. There's a reason to focus on him. That could be in the highlight shows. People are going to know who he is. Not that they already don't.
Yeah, he's going to be a person who, announcers are going to want to talk about.
Mhm.
Gus and Joel are going to want to talk about Chris Henry Jr. because you can talk about Chris Henry Jr. and then you can talk about Chris Henry Sr. and then you talk about the fact that, hey, Chris Henry Jr.'s sister is a pretty good basketball player who is, I think, coming to Ohio State. So you've got a lot of things that are going to make them want to talk about him. But I think his play on the field is going to get there too. I don't know. I'm with you. I don't know that that's week 2 against Texas. He puts up 4 catches for 60 yards. I don't know if it's going to happen that soon, but I do expect him over the course of the year to earn a bigger role, to see him more on the field, to hear people talking about him more. He's there is sort of everyone outside of Jeremiah Smith. We were talking before the show, and it's like really outside of Jeremiah Smith and Bo Jackson and Julian Sayin, kind of everyone else on this team would sort of qualify as a potential breakout guy on offense. And that just means there's not anyone there's not a Carnell Tate on the other side of the field that you're just sort of penciling in and just going, well, or, writing in Sharpie that, yeah, this is the guy who's going to get all the snaps on the other side of the field. There isn't that guy this year. So that means there's an opportunity for Chris Henry Jr. to be that guy, or to at least take on the role, take on that vacant role there opposite Jeremiah Smith. And maybe that's Jeremiah Smith moves into the slot. There's a million different ways they can do this. But yeah, I think Chris Henry is a good pick. I'm gonna go trying to decide if I want to be real contrary and take a tight end. I'm gonna go back to the running back room, Tony, and I'm gonna say Isaiah West, because Bo Jackson feels like he doesn't really qualify. Had 1,000 yards as a
Mhm.
true freshman. Isaiah West was limited last year in terms of had an injury, missed all the spring, missed a bunch of summer camp, came on sort of middle of the season, and then by the end of the season was banged up again. So you saw little, flashes of what he could be in the middle of the season, and there was certainly a lot to like there. Talking to people who are on the program, people are very, very high on what Isaiah West could be this year. Healthy, got that shoulder thing cleaned up after last season. If he can stay healthy and be on the field, I think he could bring a lot to this offense and be a good complement to Bo Jackson and to Legend Bay. I saw someone on our board. We had a really good thread on our board talking about different comps for him, and someone mentioned Joe
Oh
Montgomery.
yeah.
I kind of went, "Ooh, that's a good one." If you don't remember Joe Montgomery, he was running back in the late '90s, sort of on that like 1998 team alongside Michael Wiley. A little bit bigger, but also had a pretty good burst, had a little bit of wiggle to him. And when he was on the field, he had some injury issues as well during his time at Ohio State. But man, when he was on the field, he was, I think, not a name that people are going to mention in the top 5 or 10 names from that 1998 team. But when he was on the field, man, he made some big plays, and I think that could be Isaiah West this year.
Yeah, there were times in that '98 offense where you could say right now he is the best player on the field. I think the Iowa game was one of those where he just went wild. But yeah, very underrated duo with him and Michael Wiley in 1998. So I also like that comparison. It's like, oh, okay, that's I like. Well, if that happens, then you've got an aggressive downhill runner who also has some moves. You were thinking about going tight end, so that was my fifth guy here, and that's Nate Roberts, who I think is going to do very, very well this year. You may remember him from such positions as fullback last year as a true freshman. He will be playing tight end this year, and the catches he made some really, really nice catches. Showed some good hands in the spring. He's a big guy, 6'4", 6'5". Obviously, he's athletic. We'll see what he can do after the catch, but I think tight end's in good hands this year with both him and the transfers that they brought in. But I see him. What does breaking out mean? Is it 25 catches? Is it 30 catches? Because I think there's going to be a few guys that are in that 25 to 35 catch range, and he very well could be one of them.
Yeah, I'm not expecting Cade Stover numbers out of him where he's in the 40 catch range, but between him and Hunter Welsing and Mason Williams, I think you got three guys who could finish in that 15 to 25, 15 to 30 catch range. I would project Nate Roberts to be probably the leading receiver among that group. Every time we talk about him, I feel like compelled to say, listen, you have an opinion on Nate Roberts based on last season. That is an opinion on how he was used, not an opinion on the player. Hold your water on that one a little bit and come into this year with some fresh eyes in terms of what he could be for this team. I think this is a great pick. That was certainly the guy I was going to go with there. Number 6, and I think you and I were probably almost verbatim, boom, 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 the top 5 guys. Number 6, I think you could choose a couple different guys. I think you could make an argument for Kyle Parker here.
Mm-hmm.
I think you could make an argument for Jacoby Jackson here. I think you could make an argument for Mason Williams or Hunter Welsing here. Mason Williams, I think, is going to be kind of that Will Kazmarek type where you don't have a lot of flashy big stats, but he's going to be a really impactful player, maybe more than a breakout player. So that's why I'm going to go with Devin McEwen for my last one. Transfer from UTSA. Potentially could be a really, really big play guy down the field. Could be that Z receiver that they are kind of looking for to replace Carnell Tate. We didn't get a chance to see as much of him this spring as I would have hoped. And some of that is just the offense that they're running in the spring, and everything looks a little ragged, and the defense is always ahead of the offense, and the downfield passing game is one of the last things that shows up. So that's why when you see downfield passing in the spring, it really jumps out to you when you're seeing Jeremiah Smith do that, or you're seeing Jackson Smith Jr. do that over the years. It's really a wow. You didn't really see that, at least while we were in there this spring, out of Devin McEwen, but I do think it's in there. You've seen him produce against some of the better teams on UTSA's schedule, including power conference teams. So I think it's in there. He's obviously working with a better quarterback. He's obviously got a guy on the other side of the field in Jeremiah Smith who's going to be drawing a lot of attention from opposing defenses, which means you're going to have one-on-one matchups. Can you win those one-on-one matchups? I think he's going to, at least, with some regularity. He's not going to be Carnell Tate in terms of turning 50-50 balls into 80-20 balls. But if he can take those 50-50 balls and win his 50% or win 55 out of 55% of them, then I think he could have some pretty good numbers this year.
To me, he is the guy in terms of if this offense is going to reach its potential, he has to be a breakout guy. And if you ask the Ohio State coaches, would you rather it be him or Kyle Parker? I got to think they would take Devin McEwen to be that guy in terms of just stepping up, being that Z receiver, taking some heat off of Jeremiah Smith, taking some safeties with him deep, that sort of thing, where he's not just a decoy, but also a guy that can make catches. I don't think they're going to be able to throw the 50-50 balls that they did with Carnell Tate. And really, those all weren't 50-50 balls because he was open on most of those. And sometimes maybe it was underthrown a little bit and turned into a 50-50 ball. I'm not expecting Devin McEwen or Kyle Parker to be the contested catch guy that Carnell Tate was. And I think if you are expecting that, I'm not saying you, Tom, I'm saying if anybody's expecting that, then you're going to be disappointed. So you've got to dial the expectations back. So I think if this is Devin McEwen, that would be great for Ohio State. And if he doesn't break out, or if Kyle Parker doesn't break out, maybe combined they would break out. Like if that doesn't happen, it's going to be a bit tougher to move the ball. And maybe this is a situation where it is 50 catches for Nate Roberts or something like that, because you've got to find those yards somewhere in the passing game. So those are your 6 breakout Buckeyes on offense. Did we get him right? Are we missing somebody? Is Kyle Parker? Is he going to be in that top 6 somewhere? Let us know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. Let us know how wrong we are, how right I am. We'd love to hear that. Thumbs up on the video if you're watching. Subscribe to the channel if you've not yet done so. If you're listening and want to watch, you can find us at youtube.com/@BuckeyeInsiders. And if you're watching or listening and just want to interact with us, you can do that at BuckeyeInsiders.com. So that will do it from here. Thank you all for tuning in, and we will talk to you all later.